Are you ready for the ultimate bikepacking weekend adventure? Join us for an unforgettable self-supported bikepacking trip through Southwest Virginia. The Grayson Gravel Pie Bikepacking Adventure travels along the Virginia Creeper Trail, the beautiful gravel roads of Grayson County, Virginia, and the New River Trail. All lodging and camping arrangements are included, along with daily routes and guides riding along with you. This self-supported adventure offers resupply opportunities every 20 miles for your food and water needs. Find out more at graveltraveldirt.com.
You're listening to Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt.
Hi everybody, it's Brian, and this is episode 251 of Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt. If you're new here, this is the podcast where we talk about gravel bikes, adventure biking, bikepacking, bike camping, or just playing bikes. And this is a kind of a special episode. Last week, I had the opportunity to have a conversation with Alex over at Dirty Kitten for her Cat Chat podcast. And we talked specifically about the Women's Weekend that we are collaborating on. I wanted to, and Alex asked me to. I'm not doing this out of turn. I wanted to share this conversation with our audience through our podcast at Alex's request to get it some broader reach. We had a fantastic conversation. We talked about the weekend. We talked about the riding that's going to take place, and we talked about how the need exists for women-specific events such as this to be themselves in an environment that supports them and is designed for them, quite frankly. So sit back, relax, listen to this conversation, and if you have the opportunity, go over and check out Alex's Cat Chat podcast through Dirty Kitten Gravel. I've been subscribed there for a very long time and don't miss an episode. She has some great conversations with folks about women's cycling.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is Alex from Dirty Kitten, and I am here tonight, with my friend and fellow podcaster, I guess, Brian Rains from Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt. Hi, Brian.
It's so good to be here. This is different for me. To be
exactly.
To be the one that's being asked the questions. This is unusual. So I'm gonna try to flow with this here.
Yeah, you're on the other side of the mic.
Yeah.
Well, for all of those listening, it's interesting because I am, I guess, technically interviewing you, Brian, but you are doing the recording because you have better technology.
I wouldn't say that. I've listened to Cat Chat, and y'all do fine. Y'all do great. I wouldn't say that. But I do have a nice setup here that we can hopefully make some magic happen. So.
Well, Chris does have these nice new mics that I can't use because he's not here and I don't know how to set them up. So there
Fair.
are these mics that are chilling next to me that would be great to use, but I can't figure them out. So we're going to use your stuff.
Well, if anybody has ever listened to an episode where I'm not around and Joey, or God forbid Joey and Wes back in the day actually had to do the recording themselves, I get it. You know, everybody has their strengths. So.
Remember when we did that recording, all of us at the coffee shop in Frederick?
Absolutely.
And way back before the pandemic.
There's two things that stick out to me about that interview, and I think about that often. Remember Larry came down and sat in the corner,
Yes.
which was like having Dad in the corner watching us like do weird things. And then Wes, the morning that we were coming out to see y'all, he slipped with a razor and cut his beard, and so he shaved his entire beard off and just had this giant mustache. Do you remember that?
I did not know that because I'd never met him. So I was like, all right, I guess that's how he looks.
I'll never forget when Joey and I were like, he stepped into the car and it was like, what are you doing? We're going to meet people and you're gonna, what are you, whatever. That was a lot of fun though. That was a lot of fun.
That was super fun because I think that's the first time we all hung out.
Yeah,
technically.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And like we barely knew each other, but I sort of felt like we knew you because we would listen to your podcast.
Isn't it weird how all those connections are made? Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah. So we are going to talk about a number of things, but the focus today is going to be on y'all's Pennsylvania gravel weekends that you are hosting end of May into June this year. Right. And you said this is a new thing for you to be doing on your own?
For on my own, yeah. I've been leading tours for a few different companies for quite a few years now, probably going back 6 or 7 years, if I had to think. And I'd probably been organizing trips even before that. So this is probably a 10-year endeavor. But I have never run my own trips in the sense that these are being run. So I've got 3 that are running this year so far. I've got the 2 Pennsylvania gravel weekends, one of which is the women's weekend that we're collaborating with you on. And then we're doing another of the same weekends and collaborating with Travis over at Grusk. And then I've got a 3rd event that we just announced, which is a bikepacking weekend down in Grayson, Virginia. Yep. We're going to go from Abington, Virginia, along the Virginia Creeper Trail, connect through the Grayson Gravel Traverse, which is a route that David Landis created for Grayson County. And then we are going to connect up with the New River Trail and then take that all the way up into Pulaski. So straight up bikepacking on that one. Not nearly as luxurious as what we are doing with the lodge up at Rockgert in Canton, Pennsylvania.
Okay, but I'm looking at this, and for all the folks listening, if you want to check any of these events out, they are on the graveltraveldirt.com website.
Yes.
So that's graveltraveldirt.com. And then I think drop down gravel trips.
Right.
And I hit Grayson Gravel Pie Backpacking Adventure. So first week in May, 300 a person. Is that true?
That is true.
Dude, I may do this. Like, I may sign up.
That is true.
I need to check my schedule, but that's something. Because I want to do bikepacking, and I have a new bike that Chris just built up for me, but I have not done any bikepacking on my own. So I think this would be a good way to get started.
It is. It's so you've got some rail trail on the front end. The way we've designed it, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about this. We'll talk about, I want to talk about what we're doing in Pennsylvania, but the way that I've designed this is it's a short first day and a short last day with a second day that's a little bit more beefy, a little bit more climby. It's about 55 miles and about 5,400 feet of elevation, which normally you would look at it and go, okay, that's 100 feet per mile. But now you got to think about it, the fact that you're loaded, because this is a totally, it's a strange mix, and it's great for people who want to get into bikepacking, but like you said, don't necessarily have never done it before, or maybe done it a few times, and now they want to kind of branch out and kind of do something a little bit, different or in a different way. There is the idea of safety in numbers with a bikepacking route like this. We're going to have 10 people, and Joey and myself are going to be there. So we've got a professional mechanic, a very good mechanic that's going to be there.
You're selling this.
Yeah, and it's we're going to camp one night. The first night we're going to go from Abington to White Top on the Virginia Creeper and camp there at the Virginia Creeper campground. And then the second night we're going over to Independence, Virginia, and we are going to stay in a hotel there. Don't get too excited. It's a murder hotel with outside doors, but there is no camping in Independence. But Independence, it is nice because that's the long day, and then we get the opportunity to eat in a real restaurant, have some dinner, and then sleep in a bed, and then break out the next day, and we're going to go to Foster Falls, which is up on New River, and then finish the last day with sort of a short day into Pulaski. And then right now, the return from Pulaski to Abington is interesting. They have yet to develop a shuttle system like the Gap and the Canal have, where you can say, I want to go from point to point, and then I need somebody to take me back. But I am working with a couple of people that do cycling shuttles as well as hiker shuttles, and I'm hoping that I'm going to have a shuttle system in place so that we don't have to worry about it. But if that doesn't come to fruition, it is going to be sort of a buddy system where we're going to have some cars staged in Abington, and so it'll be a collective thing, and it's an adventure. So that's a part of the adventure. Yeah, it's a part of the adventure. So
Well, like you said, we're not going to be focusing on that,
No.
that trip today.
No.
But,
Let's talk about staying in a nice, pretty lodge.
yeah. So it is kind of a segue, though, because that would be, that's early May. That's your first event.
Right.
And then later at the end of May, I think last week of May into the first weekend of June.
Right.
We've got the first of the lodge weekends. So that's going to be the women's weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the following week will be the Grusk takeover.
Correct.
Okay. So not to confuse people, but there's a number of events happening. And the one we're going to kind of talk about tonight is the women's weekend. I've been calling it the women's gravel weekend getaway.
Okay. That's perfect. That's perfect.
I gave it that name.
It's a WGWG, Women's Gravel Weekend Getaway. I love it.
There you go. And so this is May 30th through June 3rd in northern Pennsylvania.
Right.
So tell me a little bit, before we get into kind of the details about why you and me together kind of decided to do this collab, to kind of bring Dirty Kitten in to help. What is your thought behind these lodge weekends?
Okay, sure.
So these are not bikepacking trips.
No, these are definitely not bikepacking trips. And I'll tell you where the genesis came from. I don't know. You may know Eric Schoonover. He's one of our rides for DKWTS. Yeah, he's a longtime friend of the podcast. Great guy, great family. He's from Canton, Pennsylvania. And in fact, the house that we're going to be staying in for the weekends is the home that he grew up in. His parents ran a bed and breakfast there. And it's a lodge, like this beautiful lodge, sits on 30 acres, 5 bedrooms and 3 floors and massive space, built in the late 1800s, I think the 1880s, by this bishop. So the house has this backstory, manicured lawns, a pond with a swimming dock. You can go swimming in the pond.
Wow. Somebody was talking about there being water on the property.
Yeah, in fact, the house sits above this hill, this grassy hill that kind of leads down to the pond. You can see it down the bottom of the hill. Leather furniture, very, very well appointed, 16-person dining room. And the house has its own story, too. It's a bishop and his brother built this house as a getaway out of Philadelphia. And it sits in northern central Pennsylvania. If you're familiar with the Pine Creek Valley Rail Trail, or what people refer to as the Little Grand Canyon of Pennsylvania, the very northern end of that is a place called Wellsboro. And I think Grinduro takes place up there. In fact, I think it might be the same weekend as the second weekend is Grinduro. But it's just this beautiful spot that's, I don't want to call it undiscovered. But the roads, I remember looking at the routes when I was building them, and it just kept building gravel and gravel and gravel and gravel. And I want to say I'm like 85% of the routes are actual unpaved surface. We enter the Tioga State Forest, and we also go down into some Pennsylvania game lands. And then the last day, we have this beautiful big loop that goes out through this rolling farmland. And that's our biggest day. It's 49 miles, I believe. But the beautiful thing is it's a long loop that goes out toward Towanda, and there's plenty of places where you can cut mileage off if that's what you'd like to do.
Like if you don't want to go so long that day.
Yeah, there's lots of bailouts on all the routes, and we'll actually have them built into the routes. And it'll tell you, if you want to bail out on this at this point, it's your day. You come and do your thing. You're going to be supported. We've got 2 leaders, 2 guides, and one of them's myself and Donna that I've worked with for, as long as I've been doing this. I think I've known and worked with Donna. Just a fantastic, strong female rider that is just great with people, and she's a professional guide as well as a forest fighter EMT.
That's awesome.
Just a wonderful person. And between the 2 of us, we'll either be somebody in a vehicle or somebody on a bike. and we'll flip-flop, and we're out there to support you on the bike. We're out there to support you by the vehicle. If you need water, we're going to set up a little place where we can do some water and some rest stops kind of things. Yeah, so the riding is beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. So the lodge-based approach, most of the tours that I have done with adventure cycling are point to point to point to point. And you're always setting up gear, breaking down gear. It feels like you're kind of like always under the gun, so to speak. Like there's always a clock. It's
because you have to get somewhere in time to set up camp.
Correct.
Make food, etc.
Correct. Yeah. This one's a little different in that, when you've got that central base camp style operation and you can make these loops that go out from it, the days are yours. You don't have to worry about, and you're not sleeping in a tent and you're not carrying gear.
So you're not uncomfortable.
Exactly. I mean,
you get a good night's sleep.
As much as we all love to camp, we all know that it's like you roll around for a little bit and then you sleep for 2 hours, then you wake up and then you go back to sleep and then you wake up and you go back to sleep, no matter how much we all like to sleep.
It's never really a good sleep.
Yeah. It's an adventure.
It's a different kind of sleep. Yeah, it's a different kind of adventure.
Yeah. So the lodge-based or base camp approach is something that I'd always wanted to do. And last year, Eric invited a bunch of us up, a bunch of folks that were listeners of our podcast, said, come up for the weekend. We've got this event that our club does up in Canton called the Tour de Shunk. And so we went up for the weekend. It's a very small event, run out of a little bike shop, but the roads are gorgeous. And he put us up in the house. He said, come and stay. And Eric had an ulterior motive. Eric's the president of their Chamber of Commerce. So he had an idea in the back of his head, and it didn't take long for me to grasp onto it. Because the house is run.
It worked, obviously.
Exactly. The house is run as an Airbnb, still in the family. And I looked around and I was like, this is what I've been looking for. This is exactly what I've been looking for a trip like this, where we could plan some beautiful routes, stay in a beautiful place, relax, no clock, just have the best time you can. And you also have the ability, and it's something when we're doing the point-to-point trips, you don't really have that vehicle at your disposal. You don't have your personal vehicle at your disposal. So if you want to say, what, I'd like to take an afternoon and drive into town and see this or go here or do that, you can ride in the morning, have some lunch, or go to lunch, or whatever you want to do. It's a much more relaxing kind of an approach.
Yeah. Yeah, you can use it as a vacation in a different way than if you're doing a bike packing trip.
And also my hope was, and it seems like I've got more riders that are being attracted to this, but I thought this would be a great opportunity because we all have those friends whose partner doesn't participate in the cycling side of our hobby. This is a beautiful place that partner could come along and enjoy that same kind of fantastic, relaxing weekend. And so-and-so is going to go ride their bike with their friends or with people that they've just met, and we're going to have a great dinner, and we're going to be able to relax here at this beautiful house and sit on the patio around a fire pit and just have a grand old time.
Like there's other things that you can do in this area besides riding.
Exactly.
Well, I'm secretly, I'm excited about this weekend for a lot of reasons, but I'm also secretly excited to see this lodge because it looks like kind of what our vision is in a way for our base camp Frederick Lodge.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh man, like I want to see what they're doing there because that's the kind of the idea that we have for our lodge.
Right on
a different scale, but like same kind of concept. It's an like cabin that was built in the late 1800s and then there was a house built around it, and it's just, to me, that kind of stuff's cool, that historical aspect.
I agree. There's something unique about an environment like that when there are things that you don't normally come across in the course of your everyday. And this is kind of one of those places where, unless you went to seek this out, or like what we're doing here, somebody said, let's arrange something that you can come enjoy it. You may not ever see it. You may not ever find it. Yeah. And it's so cool. So cool. And
that is the same kind of concept with these routes. Like you said, there's so many. It sounds like there's a lot of different roads and routes, and you're kind of in an area that's more unknown and maybe like less frequently traveled. And so you wouldn't necessarily want to go out on your own and ride if you aren't like me. I'm terrible with directions. Like I'd get lost. Like it would not be a good situation. So going to an event, like not an event, but a weekend like this where the routes are already planned, things are already curated, everything's already set up, and all you have to worry about is just like getting up, getting your stuff together, like what you personally need, riding your bike. That's it.
That's right. You don't have to think too much. And the way we're handling the food, that's something that people always want to know about. So everybody's on their own schedules. So we're going to have a stocked kitchen that's going to be available for breakfast and lunch. We're going to have breakfast makings and fixings, and, we'll do some casseroles. Maybe we'll have some bagels or, just that normal stuff. And a part of what we do, and this is what Donna and I have done for a very long time, as soon as we start to get people signing up for a trip and we get close to it, we're going to begin to ask for preferences.
Okay, I was going to ask that because it's like, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. So is there going to be options for me? That's something I always worry about.
We deal with it with probably every trip that we put together or that I lead. There's some sort of gluten issues and serious gluten issues like celiac or vegan or vegetarian or pescatarian or we deal with it all.
Right, and peanut allergy.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many things, and it's just a part of what it is we do, and we know how to handle that. So we'll begin to ask for preferences. But we're going to have this stocked kitchen so that you can go in and grab something or make something, whatever you'd like to do. We're going to do the same thing with lunch. We'll have the standard, sandwich fixings, but we'll also do some pasta salads and some regular salads and some chicken salads. Some things that, a little bit different, but at the same time, comfort food that you can go and grab. And then we're going to have dinners are going to be a caterer is going to come. We're going to have a caterer that will be providing us. Yeah. Which what?
I said that's amazing.
We're gonna have a caterer that's gonna. It's not going to be black tie. We'll probably end up picking canned food up and bringing it back and putting it over some warmers. But we'll make sure that we have like we're already thinking through menus. Like one night we'll do lasagna. Well, we'll have one that's going to have. Your standard regular lasagna. Then we'll do a vegan lasagna on the other side, and we're going to try to make sure that we got everybody's needs accommodated. That's what we do.
Awesome.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
I love that food plan because just thinking about the events that I do, and oftentimes we have food involved. It's tough to plan for a group of people, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's great. Having the stocked kitchen, letting people kind of do their own thing on their own schedule is nice because then you don't feel like, I have to get up at a certain time and eat at a certain time. And then maybe that doesn't work for me, with riding at whatever point.
And we'll also do, the road snacks and the fruit and the, it's funny. When you do an adventure cycling trip, the aid stations can get, when we do events, we have aid stations. When we do regular tours, we don't necessarily have aid stations. But they can get so, you have the salty, you have the sweet, you have banana, you have a peanut butter and jelly, you have all these things. And one of the things, and this is, I think, why Donna and I work so well together, is we both look at that and we go, let's do something different. So
let's not have bananas at every stop.
Exactly. So I know, and I'll throw this out there one day on a Blue Ridge rest stop. Donna went the day before and bought a watermelon, and I took it back and I was like, well, how are you going to cut up a watermelon for 40 people to come through and eat it? And I took those watermelons and I cut them up into these watermelon sticks. No, they were long sticks.
Oh, watermelon sticks.
Sticks. And then arranged them beautifully, and that was the hit. And I think Donna also that day got chocolate-covered espresso beans or something, something like that. But, we're always looking for something that's a little different, that's a little bit out of the ordinary. And I know, so Donna's doing a lot of the food planning, and she sent me menus, and because she's very good at it. And one of the things that we both love to do is to bring local flair and flavors.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, we'll definitely be some whoopie pies. We won't have any gravel in the whoopie pies.
So
but
shout out to Unpaved.
Yeah, we will definitely. It's Pennsylvania. It's we're going to have whoopie pies, but there's also a lot of other local things that I know she found. There's some strange ice cream, some mint ice cream that's very Pennsylvania, and so
you were telling me about that.
Yeah, we're trying to find all those things, and we'll have some local baked goods and pies and all of that kind of good stuff. So,
oh my gosh, this is getting me so freaking excited. The food part, I'm just pumped about that.
Well, one of the things that we found is that when people,
that's all anybody cares about.
But when people go out and ride their bikes all day, they want good food at the end of the day. So it's important. It's very important.
Not to go off on a tangent, but I will just throw this little anecdote in real quick. So for DKGR, our summer event in July, we do, this, but for anybody who doesn't know, we do the lunch. It's a barbecue. Mm-hmm. So we literally cook food for 500 people over the course of the weekend.
See, that's all over scale.
No idea why we do this, but every year we do it. And every year I'm like, why are we doing this? Let's not do this again. But everybody loves it. My amazing friend and coworker, Christy, she runs the grill with whoever else is available. We do burgers, hot dogs, veggie burgers, whatever else anybody brings. And then we have all these sides and fruit and desserts, etc. Yeah, so we have this big barbecue. Anyway, we usually do watermelon. So last year, I was like, let's do something different. So we got pineapple. Okay, everybody loved the pineapple, but the problem is you need way more pineapples than watermelons to feed 500 people. And since everybody wanted the pineapple, they all went pineapple instead of watermelon. And then they were like, well, where'd all the pineapple go? Because we ran out of pineapple. Anyway, my point is people seem to love pineapple after a ride. So maybe consider that.
Makes sense. It makes good sense. I'll put that on the list. I just made a note right here. Pineapple for Alex. Okay.
But you're going to need a lot of it. And it's annoying to cut. So maybe don't get pineapple. Okay. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit here.
Sure.
We talked about the weekend, the women's weekend. And you are doing, we don't need to get into it, but you are doing a second weekend after the women's weekend. Mm-hmm. That's the Grusk takeover. And that's going to be with Travis from Grusk.
Right.
And then is that going to be in West Virginia? Or
no,
both PA and West Virginia, or just PA?
That's actually at the same house. It's the exact same route. It's the exact same setup.
Same route, same setup, but just with Travis.
Yep. So, when I did this, you have to kind of look at the economies of what it takes to get all of the logistics and the pieces in place. So to make it make sense at the price point that we're offering it at, we had to kind of ramp up the scale a little bit. So doing it twice allowed us to bring the price point down for both, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense.
And I was excited. I will say that when I was in Florida with Dave and Celine, Dave Pryor and Celine Yeager. Yeah. And I was talking about these weekends and about, because they were struggling to fill, and Celine laid it out for me. She said, Brian, you need to find some people to work with that can you need to partner with some people. You need to make something happen. And so there's a lot of things. Celine is also a very successful podcaster. I spent the entire dinners that I had with Celine picking her brain and taking advice, and I've implemented a lot of it. And this is a part of it. But it's also something. So where the women's weekend came from, let me visit that for just a minute.
Let's go. Yeah, let's start heading that direction.
Sure. It's funny because when I first put these out there and I first started to do a little marketing, and these are domestic weekend trips. It's not an international hiking week in Chile or somewhere somewhere else. So people tend to. Cool. A domestic weekend trip is more of like, oh, we've got a free weekend coming up. What's out there we can do? and what's on our radar? What have I been exposed to that would be fun to do in that window of time because I'm free? So we weren't so worried about in the early marketing about trying to fill slots. We were just trying to get that seed planted in the back of people's brains. And so I did a little bit of marketing, and at some point, someone did comment on one of the posts that I had made, said, have you thought about making this a women's weekend? And my my male response was, sure, bring a bunch of women and you can make it your own women's weekend.
Yeah, okay.
So,
it's funny that you recognize now looking back on it that maybe that isn't the best response to have, because
my
gosh, how many times have I heard that from a male race director? Well, yeah, just find a bunch of women and bring it. Like, why is that my responsibility?
Exactly. But it did plant a seed for me, and a lot of the tours that I have led and the groups that I've been involved with, it's almost you mature into, and I think you never should stop maturing. And and I'm a child of the '80s, but I also have 2 daughters, a granddaughter, and another granddaughter on the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've always been sort of tuned in to the struggles that they have faced growing up. So it's not that I'm coming at it from a completely different direction, but taking that experience and thinking back on the tours that I have led, it is easy to see, and the tours that I've been a part of, and it's easy to see where women in an event like they tend to, when that culture is so male dominated, they tend to take that back seat, and it's of no fault. It's just the way that things have played out.
Like people aren't necessarily trying,
right? Exactly,
to make that happen, or it's very self-conscious. Like
exactly.
I notice it a lot too. You and I have talked about this, and I notice it, but I, to an extent, feel comfortable. Like I can bro out. We're going to use that term. Like I can hang out with a bunch of guys doing bike stuff and quote unquote bro out. And it doesn't bother me as much, but there are times where if I'm the only woman or one of a few, it can be all right, really? Do we have to talk about this stuff again? And do we have to it can feel just
it's exhausting.
It's not it's exhausting. I mean, it's just different than if I'm hanging out with a bunch of women. And so it's just interesting that you say you noticed that, because I think people don't always notice it when they're in the majority. They often don't notice it, right?
Or it takes a very long time. It takes a very long time.
Yeah, and it's just interesting that you say that you've started to notice that more and more and realize that it isn't a good situation.
Right. And I really, until so when I got back from having those conversations with Celine, one of my first thoughts was, that seed had been planted, Women's Weekend. Well, who has the in the community? It's who's the leader? And obviously here you are.
So I need an alpha female.
Yeah, exactly. Or just somebody.
I need a wrangler. I need a cat wrangler.
But it was different than that, because that first phone call when I called you to kind of chat about this, I wasn't necessarily sure that it was something that you would look at and say we need to do this, or this would be a good thing to do. Because I still wasn't, I can't put myself in those shoes. I can try to make myself aware of what it would be like, but at the same time, I don't know on the other side of it, and I could never know on the other side of it what it would mean to actually have a weekend like this designated and being planned and executed for women to connect with other women. I could never put my head inside that box. But talking with you, it was very apparent that this is something that people would look at and want to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I hear often in the things that I do, and I mean, pretty much everything that I do for Dirty Kitten, if it's women specific or WTNB specific. I do with my team. So it's not just me, it's me and my team that put these things together. But we hear so often people say, you should do another cat camp, or can you do one in the fall? And can you do blah, blah, blah? Like the women and people that we're working with, and it's not just women, side note, it's women, trans women, non-binary folks, like people that are kind of in the gender minority in cycling.
Okay, yeah.
Those folks are just like, we want more of this thing.
Right.
Because when you do it, and I mean, I'm just speaking from my experience. I don't know what it's like for other people who do these sorts of things, but I suspect it's similar. It's just a totally different vibe and experience than you typically get as a woman or, minority person in the cycling world. Like it, as a gender minority, like you're just used to being in that bro culture. And so when you're not in that and you're able to like be yourself and talk about the things you really want to talk about and do all the things that like you maybe don't do or hold back or whatever, like it's so hard to explain. Like it's not a conscious thing, but when you're suddenly in this different environment, it's amazing what happens. Like I'll watch people that come to cat camp go from like day one of cat camp, they're timid and insecure and unsure of themselves. And I'm not sure if I can do all 4 days. And I don't know if I can do that however long ride. I'm not very fast, et cetera. And on day 4, they're like, let's do this.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's go down that hill.
Well, you know what?
Let's cross that stream. And they're hanging. And I'm just like, yes, this is it. This is like what I'm talking about.
I feel like I'm very lucky in the regard that I'm going to be able to witness this and see it. And, I think that actually could be something that could be valuable if more men had the opportunity to be in the minority as a part of something like this. Maybe it would become, they'd realize it. I'm excited about, I talked to you and I talked to Chris a little bit about taking the back seat kind of thing and that approach and how he does with Dirty Kitten stuff that's geared towards women. But here's Chris, and Chris is helping and making things happen. And, I'm excited to kind of take that back seat and to witness what you just described, what you just talked about how, it's going to be a completely different experience than probably anything that I have seen or been a part of before. So I think so. It's just really cool to me. It's cool that it's also cool because so often, and I don't want to get too on the like Alex feminism soapbox, but so often women are thought to be and described as like women are pitted against each other. They were talked about as being, the whole like cat fight term and women are always fighting and they're at each other's throats and they're manipulative, et cetera. I mean, I'm not saying that doesn't ever exist, but it's not like, that's not how things are during these events and these camps. Like when I have cat camp and we have like 40, 50 women and WTNB folks out there, like people aren't fighting with each other. Yeah.
They're supporting each other.
It almost feels like, to me, from the outside looking in, what you just described was when women are inside of that event, inside that bro culture, they're expected to compete with one another. And then you take them outside of that, they have the opportunity to, instead of competing with others, that they have the opportunity to support each other.
That's really interesting. And I mean, that could be also like kind of how, nature works.
I don't know. We're breaking down walls here, Alex.
No, but I just mean like it makes sense what you're saying. Like that could be, I don't know, like a survival tactic, or it could just be a creation or like a byproduct of the situation. And yeah, I think it does. It definitely changes things when you take people out of that you go from like one culture to another. You change the culture. Like it definitely changes things. And Chris and I were talking about this the other night. Like, I mean, there's times where he will go do stuff with his guy friends, and I call it like guys weekend or guys night or whatever. He doesn't use that term, but I jokingly say it. But I also kind of think like that's awesome. Like he should go spend time with his friends and they all happen to be guys. And I think that's great for him. So it's not like, I don't want it to be this like double standard, but
Right.
it just doesn't happen as much for women in the cycling world. So people will say to me like, well, how come you do all these women's things and you don't do anything for men? I'm like, because there's a lot of things for men.
Yeah, there's like everything else geared towards that.
You have all the things. Like, really? Are you really saying that to me right now?
It's true, though. It is. It's true. And, we talk about it because we're in this world of cycling and particularly this discipline, this sub-discipline of gravel cycling. But you know what? Hiking, this could be something. Kayaking, this could be something. It has to break down at some point and cross over the lines. And we have to do it at the level that we are at. You and I are cycling people. We're gravel cycling people. We love to talk about it. We love to do it. A lot of people do it a lot better than me. Many people, actually, let me rephrase that. Most people do it a lot better than me. I many times feel like an imposter in the space. I'm really good at pushing computer buttons and phones and technology, and I love this sport, and I love this hobby. I love this discipline. But when Joey's in the room, and Joey is like this stellar, like professional mechanic and knows all the ins and the outs of all the bikes and all the things. And, you sit down with somebody like we had a couple of weeks ago, Jeremiah Bishop, or like David Landis last week. I feel like such an imposter at times, just because I know how to talk and push buttons. It's like, wow, how did I land here?
No, but I think that in reality, you, not just you, Brian, but you represent the epitome of what gravel is. And I mean, you even talk about that on your podcast. You're like, we're all about the middle people, the people at the, and Jess will say, party in the back. Like, those are the people that are, those are the majority.
Yeah. The tip of the spear.
Jeremiah Bishops are the minority.
The tip of the spear is a tip because it's very small.
Yeah. And so like, really, you're not an imposter because you are like the majority, but it can feel like that when the cycling industry highlights the minority. We don't need to get into that conversation, but
I know what you mean.
I do think it's pretty awesome though that you're interested in and excited about, supporting more of this type of thing. And it is cool, like you said, for you as a guy to take this like quote unquote back seat, because not only does it allow you to learn, it helps the people that are in the front seat, women, whoever, see that it like the tables are turned, right? It's like that whole traditional, like, guys play football and girls are the cheerleaders, but like the men do the work and the women cook and clean, but instead it's like, we're flipping that. And now, like, we're doing, the women are going to go out and ride, and you being the guy, like, you're going to support.
Yep.
And people say to me all the time, it's so awesome that Chris does that for you at your events. And I think, it's a great, he's setting a good example for other men to do the same thing.
And it's funny because, in the world of bicycle touring and leading tours and staffing events and staffing tours, that's just what we do. We always take that backseat supportive role. We're always riding sweep. We're at the back. We're helping other people have an experience. And I'm excited that this is going to open it up to let women have this experience amongst themselves. So I'm not really doing anything different, quite honestly, than I normally do. It's sitting in the back. It's making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and that there's water in the bottles, and that the bikes are moving forward, and that they're working right, and people are fed and they're happy. These are all the things that we just normally do. So, it's not going to be a whole lot different for me, but I am going to be able to witness something that is completely different than what I've seen before.
Yeah, because the conversation.
Not even that. It's.
I mean, I don't know. They may not be that different, but
I'll let you know. I'll let you know what I see at the end of the weekend. But I have a feeling it's going to be a much different vibe.
You can't give all the secrets away, though.
No.
We're going to make you sign an NDA beforehand.
I'm happy to do that. So.
Oh, it's funny because I was telling somebody this story the other day. The first women's camp I did was with Vanderkitten when I was riding with Vanderkitten, and we called it Vander Camp, and it was out in Virginia where I lived. And it was during my spring break because I was a teacher at the time. And the school that I worked at, it was a private school on a farm in Sperryville, Virginia. They let me use the school as our base camp. Okay. So every day everybody showed up at the school. We used the first floor, which had this big open meeting room, like a kitchen, bathrooms, place to store bikes. I mean, it was awesome. And we met there, and we did a little morning kind of group discussion thing, and then we go out on our ride. Well, I planned this camp. I've never done it before. I have all these amazing ideas, and I think, everybody who's coming is going to be super into riding and training. And this was kind of my mindset. It's all going to be about training and riding and serious stuff. Right. Mm-hmm. And day one, I have 20 people. I don't know most of them. I have a few of my teammates. We sit down in a circle, and I do my teacher thing where I introduce myself and what we're doing. And then I'm let's go around in a circle and introduce ourselves and say why we're here. Oh my gosh. The reasons people said they were there blew me away. Wow. And I mean, day one, hour one, we're all crying. And I mean, this is sort of stereotypical women, right? We're all emotional, but it's people were just I recently got divorced and I need to get away and find myself again. Or I lost a family member, lost my child. I mean, it was just people went deep, and I suddenly realized oh, people aren't here to ride. These people are here for other reasons. Yeah. And that's a game changer.
Yeah. That's so cool, because those are conversations that I don't think, we do something very similar at the beginning of all of our adventure cycling tours. We walk around the circle, and we have a meeting that's way too long where we talk about the things you should and shouldn't do, and all of that. But then we also have that aspect of it. What are you hoping to get out of the trip? What do you look for? And it's all, honestly, in a mixed environment, they're very vanilla and generic. I want to see this part of the country, and they may be legitimate, they may be real, might be what it is, but you don't hear anything like that. You don't hear anything like that. So, much different.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that needs to be everybody's reason. It doesn't always have to be some deep emotional thing, but I do find quite often with the people that I am doing events with, again, we're talking women, people in gender minority groups, there's just so many things going on that don't get talked about. And folks are just oh, this is a safe environment. I'm going to open up. And I think that's awesome, because you can't have fun on your bike, push yourself, and do all these things that you want to do if you're not feeling comfortable and confident with who you are, yourself, your surroundings, your life, etc. So it's it's all part of it. It all feeds into everything we're doing. So if that's what somebody needs, if they need to let go and vent, go for it. Yeah. And that could be speaking, or it could just be getting on the bike and hammering up a hill, whatever.
Yeah. And the way that this weekend is going to come together, there's going to be a lot of ride time. Yes. Yeah. But there's also a lot of, I don't want to call it downtime, but it's a lot of off bike time for opportunities for other things, conversations over food. Right. That's where we connect. That's where people connect, is around a table. Sharing a meal or sitting around a campfire, or sitting around a fire pit at the, back patio of this beautiful house, or sitting on the front porch in a rocking chair. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for those connections to take place. And it's not just an overnight or a 2-night. We got 5 days and 4 nights. So there's ample opportunity, there's ample time for people to really connect. And really, my biggest hope, and I've seen this with tours that I've led, and I've made friendships from tours that I have led or staffed. I'm hoping my number one goal would be that the people that come to these things walk away and they've made friends that they stay connected with, and they continue to socialize with. I know that my Allegheny trip last year, when I did an adventure cycling Allegheny mountains trip out in Virginia and West Virginia, there were 3 guys that were on that trip that met in the 70s on a bike trip.
That's so cool.
Every year, those 3 guys, they're leaving completely different parts of the country, don't have much to do with each other during the course of a year, but they always plan a bike trip that they do together 1 week out of the year. And they've been doing that for 40 years, it feels like. So, cool. That's the kind of thing I want to see come out of this. That if I had to look for an end result or a goal for me, it would be to be a facilitator to allow people to make those types of connections.
Man, I knew that I liked you. We just need to go into business together. We need to form some sort of dirty. No, I'm just kidding. we already are. We're collaborating.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
I think it's awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to be part of this, and I appreciate and feel grateful that you have included me and asked me to help, and think that I'm some sort of
We're all imposters, Alex. Maybe that's just what it is. At the end of the day, we're all just imposters.
Professional in something.
We're professional imposters. That's what it is. But we know people, and we make connections, and we move through this world, and you find the people you gravitate to. You find your people, and and then they're friends. So it doesn't matter what you do. So.
Well, I will just say to anybody who's listening out there, if you are a person that falls in this category of a woman gravel cyclist, and you're interested in this adventure, again, this is the Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt Pennsylvania Gravel Weekend, the Women's Weekend. It's going to be amazing. If you have come to Cat Camp and you love Cat Camp, this is going to be, I think, a similar concept, but everyone's staying together in the same place, eating meals together, hanging out 24/7. So to me, that's, like you said, awesome, because we get time to get to know each other, to bond, to do other activities, to relax. I think it's going to be awesome. I cannot.
And don't forget, you're being super generous, and anybody that comes to the trip actually also gets an entry to the DKGR, the Dirty Kitten Gravel Race. We didn't talk about that.
Thank you for reminding me. That's true. You get a free entry to, free, but part of your your registration includes an entry to DKGR.
As Wes used to say, if you don't do this, you're losing money because you're getting.
Because it could be almost $100 to pay for an entry for DKGR. We try to keep it as reasonable as possible, but still, it's and that's so awesome for somebody who maybe they have not done DKGR before, and this would be a good way for them to sort of get jump off the training, their training schedule for the summer, or folks that have done DKGR and they're like, oh, I want to hang out with more of those people.
and like I said, another point to reiterate, like I said, is, we're here to support you. Donna and I are there to support folks. And if you wake up in the morning and you say, you know what, it's the 41-mile day, and I don't have it in me, or I just don't feel like I want to do it, we're going to figure out a way to make it different for you. And because that's what it is we do.
Awesome.
Would we love to see you, because we've taken a lot of time planning the routes and scouting them and curating them, and we have little spots where there's a waterfall here and there's an old creepy cemetery there, and we've got all those things. We would love for you to experience the entirety of what it is we've put together, but it's not like a race day thing where there's no support outside that route. We'll figure out a way to make your day happy. That's what we're there to do.
Well, and I will be there too, Brian. So you can just put me to work and say, you're now doing this route.
Oh, you're a guest, Alex. You get to come enjoy all the things and just hang out. You get to hang out with your people. That's That's it.
I know.
That's it.
I am excited to hang out with my people. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that more of my teammates, I know some of my teammates are interested and a few said they're coming. I'm hoping more of them can
Good.
come. But I know a number of people who have told me that they're either signed up or interested in signing up. So I think, yeah, it's going to be a cool group of people. But it's definitely going to be like the, Mid-Atlantic gravel, travel, dirt, dirty kitten vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Like chill,
Oh, yeah.
hang, ride bikes, eat food,
Yep.
relax.
Ride bikes,
Maybe
eat
play
food.
games. Maybe we'll play some games.
Oh, yeah.
I'm all about games.
There's a pool table in this house. Like, there's a pool.
What?
There's a billiards room.
Excuse me?
Literally a billiards room at the end of the house. So
You better watch out because Chris Howell may figure out a way to come if he hears that. I know that we told people that he would be coming. He's got some work stuff going on. He isn't sure if he'll be able to make it, but he grew up playing pool and he's like a pool shark. So that may change his mind.
I did not grow up playing pool, but I love to watch people who know how to play pool play pool. So that's what I'll do.
I get better the more I drink. So
okay. Well, there'll be plenty of opportunity for that as well.
If there is any sort of alcohol involved, I would be better at playing pool.
Yeah. Nice.
But it does say in here, I saw that is not covered. You have to bring your own.
Yep, got to bring your own alcohol. I can't cover that, but
Right.
it would be endless at some point. Yeah. But we've got most everything else covered. There is one evening meal where you're kind of on your own, and it's our hope that folks would do one of two things. You could actually just invade that kitchen, and I'm sure there are going to be leftovers you could grab out of there, but you could also make food. But you could also just go. We're literally like a half mile outside of town in Canton. And there's a couple cool little places in town for meals. So it would be our hope that you want to explore the town a little bit as well and kind of get a feel for what that area of Pennsylvania is all about.
If there's a brewery, I'm sure people will hit that up because I find whenever I do an event, somebody's like, "Where's the brewery?"
There's not, and if I keep telling Eric this in his capacity as Chamber of Commerce, yes, a brewery or a distillery or anything of that nature in that town would literally put it over the top. So, and I actually wouldn't think that it would be that far off. With the direction that they're going up there and the inroads that they're making to kind of make people aware of what it is that they've got. Because it's just beautiful, beautiful gravel. Just absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'm excited.
Me too.
Brian, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. No,
thank you. Thank you for collaborating with me on this and all of the things that you're doing. I mean, sure, as a tour operator, you want to fill the tour up, but at the same time, you want it to have meaning, and you want there to be something special about it, and you're bringing that to the table, and I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for doing this and for asking me to be involved.
Right on.
All right. Well, I don't know. Should we do our sign off or your sign off?
You do your sign off. I'm a guest on this podcast.
Oh my gosh. I still don't really have a sign off. You guys have a way better sign off. And whenever I do my sign off, Chris always adds at the end, "Love you, bye." I'm like, that's not our sign off. You're stealing their sign off.
That's fine. It's fair game. We use Clink all the time too, courtesy of Dave.
Yeah. So. I know. I do that too. I steal Dave's stuff. Well, our sign off is, all right. Thanks for listening to Dirty Kitten Cat Chat. I'm Alex, and today my guest was Brian. And as always, keep riding dirty.
Nice. Love you. Bye.
Good. Love you. Bye. Meow.